Greetings and good Sunday to everyone. This is my semi-regular Sunday reflections, which I title "Deep Thoughts from a Shallow Guy." I was thinking about Donald J. Trump, Project 2025, and a phrase that can capture the silly shit that he's doing on a regular basis and our quite logical reaction, like, why isn't anybody doing anything? I mean, we know there are many captives around Washington, D.C. About 9 out of 10 members of the Senate and the House, the the Supreme Court. John Thune, in particular, our dear friend, they took because they deserved a vacation. They took a week off after Memorial Day, and they are reportedly returning to work tomorrow. And we will see. But arbitrary and capricious, right? It's a legal term. It is not exclusively legal, but that's sort of where the context we often revisit the that specific language, and it's a standard of review. The court or the head of an administrative agency or the inspector general, if there were any inspector generals left, would in an administrative agency, they would say, is this going to pass? Is this decision going to pass scrutiny? Just it's logic before it's a legal determination. It's logic. There are rules, there are principles, there are guidelines, and is this change, is this interpretation going to pass muster? Very simple, very elemental. And of course, one of the main tenets of Project 2025 is to remove all accountability. All accountability. They're not quite there yet, but we have to remind ourselves that they're not 2 years into this horrible experiment yet. And we have the midterms approaching fast. We have to be mindful of the fact that even Donald J. Trump, who seems completely unhinged, may make certain decisions, deployment of military personnel, aggressive acts towards peaceful people in Greenland, uh, Cuba, etc. Looking at the calendar, there will be lots of Republicans pleading, begging, licking boots with Donald Trump to, sir, we are 100% with you. Can you please just wait till the second week of November, right? Can you do this, Thanksgiving time, please? Because otherwise we're going to get fucking killed in the midterm elections. So we are with you. You want to invade China? We are united behind you. We love you. You are our leader. You are our king. But do us a solid and put that on hold. Say nothing, sir. Just please, we beseech you. We are your humble servants, but again, we don't know how to do anything else. We're too old to get another job. AI is taking it away anyway. So can you please, sir, can you just forbearance, por favor, the whole thing. There will be a lot of that going on each and every day around Washington, D.C. between now and November. But our dear friend Donald J. Trump is driven by only one principle, which is, what does Donald J. Trump feel like doing today? Part of that is we've found out is to sock as much money away for himself and his children as is humanly possible. When I read an article or listened to an article this morning, uh, well, this newspaper estimates that 1.5, he did 1.5 in 2025 easily. That the numbers are going to be astronomical. He's never going to catch up with Vladimir Putin and Elon Musk, like the two most wealthy men in the world. That is just the numbers aren't with him. Assuming, of course, as we do always, that he's in good health. Donald Trump, he's not operating well mentally. His his behavioral health has been suspect for about 79 years. But we don't wish bad things to happen to other humans because that, of course, would make us as bad as they are, and we don't want to do that. That's we have to hold on to what our mom taught us, and so we don't wish bad things to happen. We don't wish tragedy, death, dismemberment, or any other unfortunate circumstance to befall any other human being. We just wish he'd get the fuck out of the way. That's fair, right? The I was thinking about FAFO and your boy Pastor Pete Hegseth, and that's what we're doing. That's what we were doing in the Caribbean. It's like you want to find FAFO perfectly. There were some drug runners in the Caribbean that may have lost their lives at the hands of the American military, but there were certainly a bunch of fishermen that also lost their lives, and some of them were given the pleasure of a double tap to make sure that they were going to be shark food instead of being a witness to war crimes. War crimes aplenty in the Caribbean at the hands of the Trump administration. You want to sorting out, it's like with Bibi Netanyahu. Yeah, were you justified attacking X, Y, or Z following October 7th? Yes. Yes, undoubtedly. What does that have to do with destroying the lives of peaceful people that live in Lebanon? Much less. Uh, yeah, Netanyahu. Is Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal? That is asked and answered decades ago. That is done and dusted. Like our friend Vladimir Putin. That's why they're both indicted by the ICC, as we've talked about before. And I'm sure we will revisit again. But arbitrary and capricious, it's, the standard of review. What Trump doesn't have to do, his happy place is nobody telling him no. And that many people accurately, in distinguishing Trump 1.0 with Trump 2.0, is the adults in the room are now gone or muzzled. And the rules of the road, the laws, the guidelines, the inspectors general are also gone. So he can be his freestyle, free-willing, bad self with impunity, which is another Sunday word of the day from a couple months ago. And that's what Donald Trump's happy place is, in the world of impunity, where he can do anything he wants because he feels like, and he doesn't have to ask if he was invited, if he has permission, if there are going to be legal consequences. He can just do as he wishes. And that is essentially, if you want to boil it down and simplify it, that is the fault of Trump himself, clearly, because he is a free-thinking human being, or was at one point in his life. But that's his father's fault and John Roberts' fault. His dad fucked him up young and allowed him to slide along, suffer bankruptcies, and turn $400 million that he was given into enough to get by until the bankruptcies. And now he's in Trump 2.0, he's enriched himself and so many generations of his family that they won't have to worry about a single thing except Elon's robot. When Elon's robots come to kill us all, will he be saved? No, no, none at all. But that's probably for another podcast. All Trump cares about now is avoiding scrutiny, therefore, a process that would interrupt his impunity would be hearings held by a blue house after the midterm. So he's doing everything he can. And, while it looked great for the Dems, and then post the Louisiana decision is looked a little bit more dire, but Trump has been continuing to do things to make himself much less popular. Clearly, in every poll that you see, there is that core ultra mega, ultra right base they're gonna go down with the ship. They're going to stick with him until he self-immolates. I mean, until he is gone, and then they're going to have grievances about the method by which he exited the universe, right? Yeah. So yes, since Louisiana v. Calais, things looked a little bit tighter. The chances of a more of the most profound blue wave in decades, the chances of that are less after the Supreme Court did what they did and handled it, the timing of releasing the opinion, and all of the things that they did well to advantage clearly Donald Trump and Republicans. That's it's going to be a tighter race. Of course, that decision, Louisiana v. Calais, doesn't really affect the Senate, right? Because it's the proportional representation, the two per state for the U.S. Senate is something we should revisit later because there's, as everybody talks about, North Dakota should not have two senators where Texas also has two senators because that flies directly in the face of true proportional representation. Those are bigger fights for another day. And to get the consensus necessary to change the Constitution and amend it, well, it's going to be tough. So arbitrary and capricious. Project 2025, as we talked about before, if you think about the way that it stripped away every quote unquote guardrail, that is something that we're going to be battling against and through for the remainder of the time that Donald Trump is in office. And then re-establishing, the infrastructure is still there, just all the bodies are gone. The beds are made, but everybody's dead. So that's going to take a little doing, but that won't be as complicated as, for instance, rebuilding the trust that once was part of the Department of Justice, all the damage that Todd Blanche is doing, and that Pamela Joe Bondi before him have done to the Department of Justice, and Trump himself. That's going to be a longer rebuilding process because of all the trust that's been lost. And that trust has been destroyed on purpose to achieve the goal as drawn out by the Project 2025, which, as we've discussed, is the Hungarian blueprint, which was authored by Vladimir Putin. Yeah, there are there are no secrets that this whole game plan, Vladimir Putin more widely, not just looking at the United States, is if he could destroy rule of law, boot NATO, and chip away at the EU, then he would be achieving the same purpose in countries much closer to his border. And that's ongoing. And it will accelerate after, I would suppose, the German state elections are going to have an impact on that. And then the French elections in 2027 are going to, if that goes rally, and if Mr. Uh, Reform UK, Nigel Farage, continues to have success, then we're going to have, forget about, I was tweeting a little bit earlier about the idea of ditching Brexit and having Great Britain, having England rejoin the common market. You know, they better do it today, because the forces of the fascists, the ethno-fascists, who are coming back into power in, two of the two largest and most consequential countries in Europe, if you exclude the UK, I'm sorry, but France and Germany, that there is a very real possibility that by the end of 27 or by the end of 28, that both of those countries may be holding referenda to discuss whether to leave the common market as well. So yeah, it's and with JD Vance pom poms on the sidelines cheering them on to all of our mutual destruction down the line is a little bit unsettling, but that's that's the fun part about being here on this delightful little globe. We things go in waves, things go in cycles, they go up and they go down, and we do what we can. So the deep thought from the shallow guy today is, if you want to have a framework to try to understand what motivates Donald J. Trump, and you haven't been able to kind of hitch your wagon to a particular team of horses, then that is uh, the arbitrary and capricious standard of review is a good way to look at every decision that's facing Trump, because it is what is it on the surface, and we have to, if we're being honest with ourselves, we have to view each of those. I'm talking about Iran, Cuba, any other, the relationship with China, the decision to form a safety mechanism for AI integration, which should have been done, at the beginning of of his administration. And I have to hasten to add that every time that I say that, I need to, say that the Biden administration needed to do much more, but they were not antagonistic to the idea of implementing safety in the most important issue facing our world right now, artificial intelligence. They were not, it was not antithetical to their governing philosophy. They were not antagonistic to the idea of doing that. The companies, even Dario Amodei from Anthropic and others, Sam Altman probably a little bit more disingenuously, was demanding governments government implement guidelines. And then when they realized how much more money they could make with the guardrails and condoms off under Donald Trump, then they were a little bit less adamant about that. Trump doesn't want that because it reduces his opportunity to exploit the AI the big boys and girls at Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and all of the other clowns, um, uh, you know, Andreessen's, Peter Thiel, etc. He can extort less from those people if there are watchdogs in place. It goes to that impunity thing, that let me do my bad self thing. Let me freestyle. That's what I want to be. I want to be the freestyle king. And I can just, you think about arbitrary and capricious, right? You take those two words, arbitrary, arbitrar, my Latin gets fuzzy somewhere between here in Boston and Venezuela, where I think that I know how to speak Italian, mix up my Latin roots, and makes my Spanish even worse. And I'm getting older and I'm not that bright to begin with. But if I were to guess, arbitrar probably meant in Italian, going back to Italy, a judge, right? And you say, oh, good. Well, there's a judge on duty, then everything is going to be fine. No, because the suggestion was how arbitrar got to arbitrary, right? Which means willy nilly, is over time, a single judge can also be corrupted, like a president, like a king, for instance. So arbitrar became arbitrary and capricious. They are related in what is capricious, I think, is capriccio, Italian, which means, boy, I used to know that. Let's just call it caprice is a whim, right? Uh, a flight of fancy, doing it just because I want to. Okay, so arbitrary and capricious, and that's what when it's used as a standard of review, the court, as I mentioned, the inspector general or the senior exec or the leader of a administrative agency has to look at it and say, when people review my work, are they going to say that I was capricious? Meaning, did I do this on a whim, or did I do it within the parameters of what my responsibilities are? Right? And again, that is antithetical to everything that Donald Trump ever was, as a spoiled fuck child, as a spoiled real estate and not that successful real estate developer. Certainly, the record as a casino operator is only 4 bankruptcies, and everything. Without The Apprentice, it's easy to argue that he would just be another, a gadfly New York real estate dude that has a name that might be marketable in a licensing agreement. So he continue to collect checks and then occasionally file bankruptcy throughout his life? Certainly possible, but now he is not rich, he is wealthy. He is wealthy almost beyond imagination for common people like you and I, who, if when I was a kid, somebody said hey, he's a millionaire. You're like, oh my God, I played Monopoly. I understand what that means. Uh, Now, of course, in the context of Elon Musk and your boy Vladimir Putin, it's a different thing. When there are men, they are men now. They are only men now at that top seat at the table, that are going to be calculating their fortunes in terms of trillion with a T. So, yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, that hopefully short enough chat about deep thoughts of a shallow guy, arbitrary and capricious. Trump wants to be left to freestyle his way through the remainder of his term and take whatever he wants, do whatever he wants. Now, court the other day said you got to take Trump off of the Kennedy Center. Got to take the name off. And he's getting angry. And the other thing to watch, and I will, as I almost promised a few minutes ago, there's still some Supreme Court cases that matter. We'll be receiving over the next 30 to 45 days some decisions. The birthright citizenship, right? And remember when we covered that on at least 2 podcast episodes, that was my argument back in September at the beginning of the term, that there were certain decisions that were already in the bag, right? In the bag against Trump. He was fully briefed by Roberts and maybe Alito and Roberts that, sir, in order to maintain plausible deniability over our being corrupted by wanting to rule for you every fucking day of the week, is we're taking these decisions. We're going to rule against you. Any reasonable court would have to, but the tariff case and the birthright citizenship case are 2 examples of that. And they kept to their word on tariffs, and he played his part perfectly. Right? This I didn't do a Saturday stratagem podcast yesterday because I doing other shit. But that is one of my stratagems: is that it's a setup, it's window dressing, it is putting gilding the lily, if you will, for the Supreme Court in order to allow them plausible deniability with the American public. So when the pitchforks come out and the people come for the court, as they really should soon, then they can say, no, look, look, look yonder, look, aghast. What do you say? Those boat captains on the cartoons. Whatever. We gave you. Oh, we didn't mean to say give you. We ruled in your favor. We were on the side of the angels. We didn't want Donald Trump to be able to do whatever he wanted with the tariffs. So we're with you. We're impartial. We are strict constructionists. We tell you these things. We want you to believe. And John Roberts even makes now public pleas saying, oh, well, I think we're being treated a little bit unfairly. Right. And and the 3 liberal justices, thank God for the ladies, they are writing opinions, writing in dissent and spelling it out in a way that cannot be misunderstood. Right? That is, we are blessed that we have some of the most eloquent writers on the progressive minority, so we can at least explain to the American people how they're being fucked and by whom, which is important in this because it moves pretty quickly, even though the Supreme Court takes many fewer cases now than they used to. And that's a good argument for adding a few justices. There are a lot of good arguments for adding 3 more justices to the court, at least. But again, that's a battle for another day. And if we don't have a victory in the midterms, then all of our plans have to reset for what we should be doing every day of the week, which is focusing on the state elections as well. The state houses around the country, the governor's races are very important too. But let's stay all in on the midterms, and even if there will be masked bandits at various places trying to intimidate, particularly members of the minority population, trying to discourage them from voting. There'll be all sorts of stuff like that, shenanigans and worse. But we have to stay strong. Get a volunteer at a local polling station if you feel that you have the time and your contributions to collective action have been somewhat less than um, uh, less than an enviable effort has been made heretofore, then that's something you can do, and that's one day, right? That is on voting day in the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. That you can sign up with your local municipality and offer your services just to be there to help. Is there a disabled person that needs assistance getting to and from, in and out, getting into the voting booth, whatever that might be? I don't. I haven't had the honor of providing that particular function, um, as uh, as somebody who needs shit read to me to begin with. But there's whatever you can do, that would be great, and your fellow citizens, I'm sure, would be eternally grateful. So thank you, and we'll leave you with these deep thoughts from a shallow guy. Wish you a beautiful Sunday, and we'll be back with you sometime tomorrow. I'm going to maybe lift the phone to see if by turning it in towards the building, I might be able to. No, once again, not brilliant sunshine, but a beautiful day, and got down to 40 odd degrees Fahrenheit early this morning, which was a little bit cooler than the dog appreciates it. I made my apologies, and he did or did not accept them. But I'm going to just duck inside where I get a little bit of shade, and I'm able to disconnect without deleting the entire feed. So how's that? Thank you for everything, and kindly do um, your generous restacking and subscribing, and wishing you a beautiful day.